Welcome back, viewers. Today we're going to take a closer look at some updates impacting Western Digital. To help me here, we have Billy. Good afternoon, Billy. How's it going?
Good afternoon, Jose. It's going well.
So, Billy, I'm gonna send this one straight your way, just so you can let the viewers know what's happening here.
Okay, so Western Digital, for those who don't know, is a big player in the memory space, specifically hard disk drives and NAND Flash, both types of non-volatile memory, which stores data when power is turned off. That's opposed to DRAM, which stores data when power is turned on and is uh, delivers data at higher speeds. So the NAND flash industry has been absolutely terrible, and Kioxia is still a private company. It used to be Toshiba Memory in Japan. Western Digital is obviously public, and while their hard disk drive business is okay, they're only one of two, well, really three players, but two big players there. The NAND flash business is pretty terrible. Western Digital, I think, just moving on to that last point there, burned through over $500 million last quarter. They had a
Wow.
negative gross margin in their NAND flash business, which gives you a sense of how far NAND flash prices have fallen in this memory bear market. So the DRAM market's more consolidated. There's only three big players there, whereas NAND Flash, it's a little bigger. There's really five big players there, which doesn't seem like very consolidated. But when you have this volatile and cyclical market, it is less consolidated, and you're getting more pricing competition. So some consolidation among the players could help with that. Now, the other players in the space are Samsung, SK Hynix, Micron, and then those all have DRAM wings that are sort of less terrible. So DRAM's a little bit more profitable than NAND Flash, which is really suffering right now. And also, the Chinese have sort of been unable to crack the code on DRAM, but they do have a NAND Flash player. The name escapes me now. So that is supplying some of that local market. So the NAND flash industry needs to consolidate.
Hmm.
Western Digital and Kioxia already have a joint venture at the Yokkaichi plant in Japan, which is the largest semiconductor plant in Japan. They have a 20-year joint venture. So if there's consolidation in the industry, it would make sense for these two companies to get together. Um, Western Digital. So the reason I'm bringing this up now is that there was a report over the weekend from Kyoto News in Japan that the two companies are now in detailed talks over merging Western Digital's NAND flash business, splitting off the hard disk drive business, merging the NAND flash business with Kioxia. This is not a new concept. Western Digital saw an activist investor get involved in its stock last May after the big price decline. Elliott Capital Management is a big activist investor. They sent a letter to the board saying you should split these two businesses because there's no synergies between hard disk drive technology and NAND flash technology. It was a terrible idea to acquire SanDisk, which was the NAND flash company that Western Digital acquired back in 2016. You should undo that and then merge it with another player. Um, so not Elliott got involved and bought shares last May. They're down on those shares, obviously, because the memory market has really fallen off a cliff. Actually, in January, Elliott put in another $900 million with a private equity fund, Apollo, in convertible stock. So another 900 million, which pays out 6.25% and converts at 47.75 per share. Western Digital needs the money because it's burning $500 million a quarter, and it only has 2.2 billion in cash left. So that is extending the lifeline. So these two companies held talks last fall and were thought to be on the verge of getting together, but then it didn't happen. I think it's a tough negotiation. The market's really tough for both of them. There's questions over control and who gets fired and who stays on. Obviously, you need to consolidate the sales and production efforts to cut costs because this is a commodity business and you need to be a low cost provider. Um, but now it looks like the market is so bad that there's more urgency, I think, for them to get together. So maybe this long awaited merger will eventually happen. That would be a good thing for the memory market if it does. Hopefully, you'd see more rational um, supply growth. You can better control supply growth of NAND Flash with demand. If they did merge, they would be the largest NAND Flash company. They would overtake Samsung in that regard. They'd be 36.8% of the market, overtaking Samsung, which is 34%. And hopefully, with size and scale, they would be able to cut costs and get more profitable or be able to handle these down cycles a little bit better. Um, and I just think it's pretty interesting when you have these two titans of the industry potentially getting together. NAND Flash has definitely been the worst of the memory markets. DRAM has been better, although it's been pretty volatile. And we're in one of the worst memory downturns ever, the worst since 2008. So maybe if they get together, the memory industry will come out stronger on the other side of this. Um, but it's definitely, these down cycles definitely do drive consolidation, either through bankruptcy or merger. And then the industry gets more rational and comes out healthier on the other side. So, as an investor in Micron, I'm really hoping this happens because I think it would be healthy for the industry and all players would benefit. It didn't happen last fall, but maybe it will happen now.
Discover the world of semiconductors without getting lost in the technical jargon. My new membership offers a perfect balance for investors looking to understand this exciting market. Using my electrical engineering knowledge and experience, I will release weekly exclusive videos ranging from quick 5-minute 101s to in-depth analysis, covering not just popular chip stocks, but aiming to explore every public semiconductor. Plus, join a private community of like-minded investors. Finally, I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
Billy, this one's pretty interesting, especially like you mentioned. I mean, you mentioned that DRAM is already kind of broken down into just 3 players, and now kind of the NAND Flash is pretty much 5 players and maybe potentially 4. A merger like this, right, Billy? When you're hearing about from a 5 player to a 4 player, um, do you? How much of a pushback do you think like regulators would have on something like this?
It's a good question, but both of these companies are losing money now. Like, there's no, it's like it's not like they have 40% operating margins and they're going to like gouge customers. This is needed, and might run into some resistance from the Chinese. The Chinese would obviously love to have as cheap a NAND flash as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a homegrown player as well who would probably benefit. So that might help them usher it through. But, Intel sold its NAND flash business to SK Hynix 2021, I think, and that went through no problem. So that brought six down to 5. So SK Hynix now owns Intel's old NAND flash business, which is called Solidigm, because Intel is divesting non-core businesses. And that went through. So I would imagine this would go through eventually, maybe with some delays. But, I guess it makes sense to get them together. And the fact that they haven't gotten together leads me to believe there's some complicated negotiations going on here. But the financial picture just keeps getting worse for Western Digital. And eventually, it's going to run
Yeah.
out of time. So, might be a catalyst to get people to accept some less good terms, I would imagine. But then you obviously have Elliott. You have Elliott, which is a pretty smart activist investor in investing hedge fund on the board. I think they have a board seat, so they're probably playing hardball as well. But I don't know. This memory downturn is really bad, and it might force their hand. So we'll see.
Yeah. Definitely, Billy. This one's a pretty interesting topic, and I'm happy you brought it to the table. Before I close out the topic, Billy, any final thoughts on your end?
No, if some were thinking of maybe getting into Western Digital at a really low valuation and maybe playing this merger catalyst, that's a risky strategy. I never like to invest in a company just because I think it's going to get taken out. Because and if it doesn't, uh, there's I would say a low likelihood of bankruptcy, but not 0%. So
Mm-hmm.
it's risk. Western Digital is still pretty risky. I think all companies in the space would benefit if the merger did go through. So I still prefer Micron because it's got the DRAM business it can sort of lean on during this time. But this would be an interesting company if they did merge as the largest NAND Flash company. That would be interesting if it went through, and I'd have to see what Kioxia's metrics are. We can't see that because it's private. Kioxia was thinking of going public in an IPO back in 2020, and then it didn't for obvious reasons. So we don't know what Kioxia looks like. It's a little bit bigger than Western Digital. The NAND Flash business is a little bit better than Western Digital's NAND Flash business. So if these two companies get together, I'd take a fresh look at it, and it might be an interesting opportunity there if it trades cheaply, which it probably should.
Yeah, definitely, Billy. And I think that's a great way to end this segment. So
Thanks.